Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I want to share a story that will leave you speechless. A story about pride, cruelty, and unexpected love. It's about a man whose life changed the day he saw his wife slap their maid. That single moment opened his eyes and showed him who truly had a heart of gold. Stay with me till the end, because this story will touch your soul and remind you that kindness always wins. In the bustling heart of Lagos, where traffic horns and street hawkers filled the air with endless noise and the glow of neon signs lit up the night, Chijioke Eze lived what many people would call a perfect life. He was a successful entrepreneur in his early 30s, managing a logistics company that delivered goods across the city, and he was married to Adaora, a beautiful woman from a well-known family in Enugu, the kind of woman who loved luxury, fine things, and the attention that came with her husband's success. Together they lived in a spacious duplex in Lekki Phase 1, complete with a small garden, a high fence, and a security man at the gate. Yet, despite all that wealth and comfort, something inside Chijioke always felt uneasy. A quiet restlessness that grew over the years of his marriage, though he could never quite explain why. Adaora was stunning, charming in public, and sharp with her words, but she had a temper that could burn through walls, and her sense of superiority often made her look down on others, especially those she considered beneath her, like housemaids, drivers, or even waiters at restaurants. She carried herself like a queen, expecting everyone to bow to her moods, and for a long time, Chijioke ignored it, because he thought that was how some women behaved when they came from privileged homes. But everything changed the day he came home early from work and saw something that made his blood run cold, something that tore the illusion of his marriage apart in a single moment of truth. That morning had started like any other. He had gone out for a meeting with an investor, but returned earlier than expected because the meeting was canceled. As he drove into the compound, he noticed the gate slightly open and could hear faint noises from inside the house. Sharp, angry sounds, followed by what seemed like crying. His first thought was that someone had broken in, so he rushed inside, but what he saw at the entrance of the living room stopped him dead in his tracks. There, on the marble floor, kneeling with her hands raised in fear, was Amaka, their young maid, barely 22, trembling as Adaora towered over her with a cane in one hand and rage burning in her eyes. "You think I'm your mate, Ain?" Adaora shouted, her voice echoing through the house. "You touched my designer shoes without permission, you this village girl!" Before Chijioke could even speak, Adaora swung the cane again, striking Amaka across the arm. The young girl cried out, clutching her skin where the welts had already formed, tears mixing with sweat and fear. It was a sight so cruel and unexpected that Chijioke stood frozen for a few seconds, his heart pounding with disbelief. When he finally found his voice, he shouted, "Adaora! What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" Adaora turned, startled, her face flushed with anger and shame at being caught. But instead of remorse, she tried to justify herself. "Chijioke, you don't understand," she said quickly, dropping the cane on the sofa. "This girl is rude, she doesn't respect me, she took my shoe without asking." But Chijioke wasn't listening to her excuses. He rushed to Amaka, helping her to her feet, and as he saw the bruises forming on her arm, something inside him snapped. He couldn't believe that the woman he had loved, the one he had promised to protect and cherish, was capable of such wickedness toward a helpless girl. "Adaora, she's your maid, not your slave," he said sharply. "You think because she works for us, you can treat her like an animal?" Adaora rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Please don't start acting like a saint now. You men don't know what it's like to manage girls like this. They're always lazy, always sneaky." But Chijioke didn't respond. He simply turned to Amaka and told her to go to her room and rest. That evening he couldn't eat. Every time he looked at his wife, he saw the image of her raising the cane, her face twisted with anger, and Amaka's terrified eyes begging for mercy. He realized that all the signs had been there. How Adaora spoke harshly to the cleaner, how she insulted the driver in front of their guests, how she always acted like she was above everyone else. For the first time in their marriage, Chijioke felt disgust, pure and heavy. The next morning, he drove Amaka to a clinic in Victoria Island and paid for her treatment, insisting the doctor check for internal injuries. When he saw her sitting quietly afterward, her eyes swollen from crying, he felt a deep pity for her. "Amaka, I'm sorry for what happened," he said gently. "No one deserves to be treated like that." She nodded but said nothing, too shy to speak to her boss directly. Over the next few days, Adaora tried to act as if nothing had happened, even suggesting they attend a friend's birthday dinner that weekend. But Chijioke refused, saying he needed time to think. Their marriage, once filled with laughter and plans, now felt like a silent battlefield where respect had died. He started noticing more things: how Adaora spent hours gossiping about other women's husbands, how she would scold Amaka for the smallest mistake, and how she had no empathy whatsoever. One night, after another heated argument, Chijioke told her, "You know what your problem is? You think money and class make you better than everyone, but you've lost your heart." Adaora scoffed and walked out of the room, muttering that he was being dramatic. But Chijioke wasn't exaggerating. Something deep inside him had changed, and he knew their marriage was falling apart. Weeks passed in uneasy silence, the kind that stretched between two people who no longer saw each other with love, but only with resentment and blame. Chijioke began coming home late, spending more time at his office in Ikeja or with his friend Uchenna, who had noticed the tension long before Chijioke even admitted it. At home, Adora maintained her usual air of arrogance, acting as though nothing had changed, still dressing up every evening, posting glamorous selfies on social media, and throwing subtle insults at Amaka whenever she could. But Amaka, humble and soft-spoken, never retaliated. She went about her chores quietly, cleaning, cooking, and managing the house in a way that brought a strange peace to the environment when Adaora wasn't around. One evening, Chijioke returned home to find Amaka sitting outside near the backyard, peeling yams by lantern light because power had gone out again. The sight of her working quietly, humming to herself, made him pause. "Amaka," he called softly, walking closer. "Why are you out here instead of inside?" She quickly stood up, startled, and wiped her hands on her wrapper. "Ah, Oga, the generator went off, and Madam say I should not sit inside when there is no light," she said with a nervous smile. Chijioke felt something twist inside him again. Not attraction at first, but sadness. How had he allowed his home to become a place where fear ruled over kindness? He helped her carry the peeled yams inside and insisted she rest while he fixed the generator himself. When Adaora returned home later that night from one of her outings, she met him sitting in the parlor, quiet and distant. "So you're now doing houseboy work?" she mocked. "Helping maids in the kitchen?" He looked at her without emotion. "Maybe if you treated people with some respect, we wouldn't be here." She hissed and stormed upstairs, muttering something about how men never appreciated good wives. But deep down, she knew she was losing control over him. The breaking point came 2 weeks later, on a Sunday morning. Chijioke had gone to church alone because Adaora claimed she was too tired. When he returned, he found the house in chaos again. Plates shattered on the floor, and Amaka crying in the corner while Adaora screamed at her. "You stupid girl! How dare you break my perfume bottle!" Adaora shouted, holding a shoe in her hand as a weapon. This time, Chijioke didn't even hesitate. He rushed between them, grabbing his wife's arm before she could strike. "Enough, Adaora!" he shouted so loudly that the security man ran into the compound to check what was happening. "If you hit her one more time, I swear I will call the police myself." Adaora froze, shocked that he would dare raise his voice at her in front of the maid. "You're defending her now? A common house girl?" she yelled back, her face red with fury. "Is this what it has come to?" Chijioke glared at her, shaking his head. "You call her common, but she behaves with more decency than you do." That was the moment everything broke between them. Adaora grabbed her purse and shouted, "Fine, maybe you should go and marry her then," and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. For the first time, Chijioke felt relief instead of fear. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in months. Over the next few days, Adaora packed her things and moved out to her parents' house in Enugu. Her mother called several times, pleading with Chijioke to reconsider, but he had made up his mind. "Mama, I tried," he said over the phone. "But Adaora has no respect for anyone, not even herself. I cannot continue in such a marriage." The news spread fast among their circle of friends, with everyone whispering different versions of the story. Some saying he had fallen for the maid, others saying he was bewitched. But Chijioke didn't care. He focused on his business, and the more he stayed away from Adaora's drama, the lighter his life felt. Amaka, on the other hand, continued working quietly, but he noticed she seemed uncomfortable, almost guilty about the situation. One evening, she approached him nervously while he was reading on the veranda. "Oga, please," she began softly. "If Madam comes back, I can go. I don't want trouble between both of you because of me." Chijioke looked up at her, his expression calm but firm. "Amaka, none of this is your fault. You've done nothing wrong. You're staying here as long as you want." She nodded, tears filling her eyes. From that day, something changed between them. A quiet understanding, a bond born out of respect and shared pain. Months rolled by, and the divorce was finalized. Adaora tried to fight it, claiming emotional distress, but the court had evidence from the housemaid and even the security man who testified to her violent temper. When the judgment came in favor of Chijioke, Adaora broke down in tears, realizing too late that her pride had cost her everything. Meanwhile, life in Chijioke's house became peaceful. He started noticing little things about Amaka, her neat handwriting when she made grocery lists, her gentle laughter when the neighborhood children played near the gate, and the way she always prayed quietly before bed. She was different from any woman he had ever known, simple, genuine, and full of grace. Still, he kept his distance, afraid of what people might say if he acted on the growing affection he felt for her. One day, his friend Uchenna visited and joked, "Guy, be honest, you don't miss Adaora Small?" Chijioke laughed quietly. "Miss her? I feel like I've been released from prison." Uchenna nodded. "And what about your maid? You two seem close." Chijioke frowned. "She's just someone I respect. That's all." But he knew it was more than that. One rainy evening, Amaka fell sick with malaria. Chijioke found her shivering on the sofa, trying to finish folding laundry even though she was weak. He scolded her gently, made her take medicine, and cooked for her himself. Simple noodles, but it made her smile faintly. "Oga, thank you," she whispered. No one ever cared for me like this." That night, as he watched her sleep on the couch wrapped in a blanket, he realized how deeply he had grown to care for her. Not as a maid, but as a woman with a kind soul. Over the next few months, their friendship deepened into something unspoken but strong. When Amaka finally told him she wanted to return to her village to see her mother, he felt an ache in his chest he couldn't ignore. "If you want to go, I won't stop you," he said quietly. "But I'll miss you." She smiled shyly. "I'll come back if you want me to." He looked into her eyes for a long time before saying, "I'll be waiting." When she left, the house felt empty. For weeks, he found himself thinking of her constantly, her smile, her gentle nature, the peace she brought wherever she went. Then one morning, as he was preparing to leave for work, the security man came to the gate and said, "Oga, that your maid Dawn come back o." Chijioke's heart skipped. When he stepped outside, there she was, Amaka, dressed neatly, carrying a small bag, smiling like sunlight after rain. "Welcome back," he said softly. "It's good to see you again." She bowed her head. "Thank you, sir." But this time, he didn't want to be her sir anymore. He wanted to be something more. When Amaka returned to Lagos, everything about the house seemed to come alive again. Chijioke didn't realize how much her presence had softened the space until she walked through the doors once more. The air felt lighter, the rooms warmer, and even the security man noticed the change. "Oga, since Madam Amaka come back, this house dawn calm well," he said with a grin one morning, and though Chijioke laughed it off, the truth was that peace had returned in full. Amaka had grown more confident too. Her months back in the village had matured her. She told him about her mother's small farm, how she helped with the planting season, and how her mother kept praying for her every night. Sometimes they would sit in the veranda after dinner drinking malt and watching the moon rise over the compound walls, and Chijioke would find himself drawn to the sound of her laughter. It was like music that healed something in him. Still, he struggled with the idea of falling for her. Society's voice was loud in his head. How can a man like you marry your former maid? His friends would never understand, and his family, especially his mother, would see it as a disgrace. Yet, every time he looked at Amaka, he knew he was already too deep to turn back. One evening, as the sky turned purple and the sound of distant traffic echoed faintly, Chijioke asked her to sit beside him on the veranda. "Amaka," he began slowly, "if you could change one thing in your life, what would it be?" She smiled faintly, staring at the stars. "I'd want my mother to rest, to stop worrying about me. She always says I deserve a good life, even if we come from nothing." He nodded thoughtfully. "You do deserve a good life." There was a long silence. Then she added softly, "But life doesn't always give us what we deserve. Sometimes we just take what we get and thank God." Her words pierced his heart. He turned to her, his eyes steady. "What if life is trying to give you more this time, Amaka? Would you take it?" She looked at him, confused at first, then saw something in his expression that made her heart skip. "Sir," she began, but he interrupted gently. "Don't call me sir anymore. My name is Chijioke." Their eyes locked, and for the first time he reached for her hand. It was a quiet, trembling moment filled with emotion neither of them had the courage to name. Over the next few weeks, their bond grew stronger. They didn't need to say much. Every gesture, every glance, said everything words couldn't. But soon, people started to notice. The neighbors whispered, the driver gossiped, and before long the story spread that Mr. Ease is falling for his maid. When Uchenna visited again, he didn't mince words. "Guy? Abeg? You dey craze? You unmarry housemaid? What of your status? Your family name?" Chijioke leaned back in his chair, calm but firm. "Uchenna, what use is status if it comes with unhappiness? I married a woman with class before, and all it gave me was shame. Now I just want peace, and Amaka gives me that." His friend sighed, shaking his head. "This Lagos go laugh, Yusha." Chijioke smiled faintly. "Let them laugh. I'm done living for people." When his mother, Mama Ezi, heard the rumor, she traveled all the way from Owerri to confront him. "Chijioke, my son, is it true? You want to bring a maid into this family as wife?" she asked with trembling disbelief. "Hey! Have you lost your senses? What will people say?" He stood quietly, then replied in a calm voice. "Mama, people talked when I married a Diora too, and they still talked when she disgraced me. I'm tired of living for people's mouths. This one makes me happy." Mama Ease was furious. "Happy? Happiness is not marriage. What about children? What about your father's name? You will marry a girl that cannot even speak good English?" Chijioke sighed deeply. "Mama, she may not speak polished English, but she has a clean heart, and that is worth more than all your degrees and fine grammar." His mother left that day in anger, swearing she would never bless such a union. But Chijioke didn't waver. Weeks later, as fate would have it, an incident changed everything. One morning, Mama Eze fell ill while visiting a relative in Lagos and was rushed to a nearby hospital. When Chijioke heard the news, he rushed there immediately, and to his surprise, when he arrived, he found Amaka already there, sitting beside his mother's bed, feeding her pap and wiping her face gently. "She collapsed at the market," Amaka explained softly. "I saw people shouting, so I helped." Mama Ease looked up weakly at her son, tears filling her eyes. "This girl, she carried me on her back into the keike that brought me here. I thought I would die." That day, something shifted in Mama Ease's heart. When she recovered, she called Amaka to her room and said quietly, "My daughter, you are not what I thought. You have shown more love than those who claim to be educated." Amaka only smiled humbly, saying, "Mama, you are my mother too." From that day, Mama Easy's heart softened toward her, and when Chijioke told her again of his plans to marry Amaka, she no longer resisted. "If she can love me like this without being your wife," she said, Then maybe she will love you more when she becomes one. The wedding was small and simple, held at a modest church in Surulere. Only close friends, a few family members, and some neighbors attended. Many people whispered behind their backs, but Chijioke didn't care. When Amaka walked down the aisle in her cream-colored gown, her face glowing with quiet joy, he knew he had made the right choice. As they exchanged vows, tears rolled down his cheeks, not of regret but gratitude. He had lost everything society thought was valuable, but had gained something priceless: peace, kindness, and true love. After the wedding, Adaura heard the news from mutual friends. At first, she laughed bitterly. He married his maid? Pathetic, she said. But when she saw pictures online of the couple smiling, their happiness so real, she felt a pang of regret she couldn't explain. For the first time, she realized that beauty, money, and pride could never replace the warmth of a good heart. She tried to reach out once, sending a short message. "I hope you're happy." Chijioke saw it and replied simply, "I am. I truly am." Years passed, and the Ize home became a place of laughter and love. Amaka managed the house with grace, treated everyone with kindness, and even helped Chijioke expand his business. They had 2 children, a boy named Somto and a girl named Chioma, both bright and respectful. People who once mocked him now envied the peace that radiated from his home. Whenever visitors came, they were struck by how humble yet joyful the couple was. And every time someone asked Chijioke if he ever regretted marrying his maid, he would smile and say, "No. I married a woman who reminds me daily that love is not about class, it's about peace." One evening, as they sat on the veranda watching their children play in the compound, Amaka turned to him and said softly, "Do you ever think of the past?" He smiled, placing his arm around her. "Sometimes. But then I look at you, and I thank God that I didn't let the past decide my future." She rested her head on his shoulder, whispering, "You saved me." He chuckled gently. "No, Amaka, you saved me. I just didn't know it then." And as the sun dipped below the Lagos skyline, casting golden light across their peaceful home, Chijioke realized that life had finally come full circle. From chaos to calm, from pride to humility, and from pain to a love so pure, it silenced every voice that once doubted them. And that's how one act of cruelty changed everything. He realized that love isn't found in beauty, money, or class. It's found in kindness, humility, and a pure heart. The woman his wife once looked down on became the woman who brought peace into his life. In the end, it wasn't wealth or status that won. It was love, born from respect and compassion. Sometimes the person the world calls just a maid is the one sent to heal your broken soul. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends and family so you don't miss the next powerful story coming your way. Drop a heart and comment, like, and subscribe my channel. And visit my channel for more interesting stories videos.